Hello everyone, welcome back to Easy Education London, and today we are looking at the GCSE English Language Paper 1, which will be sat on Monday the 5th of June 2023. So we're not far away from the Language Paper 1, and what I wanted to do in this video is to give you a full breakdown of the English language paper. So hopefully by the end of this video, you will all be confident going into the exam for Language Paper 1. Please subscribe, like and share as we are going to do model answers for questions 1, 2, 3 and 4 and also for question 5. So first things first, question number 1 is the easiest question and it's only worth 4 marks. So as you can see, I've highlighted here. It's only 4 marks. So what do you have to do here? In simple terms, you're just listing 4 things, okay? So you're listing 4 things that you understand from the text and it's from specific lines. Do not write one-word answers because that's not going to get you marks. You need to be writing in statements. The house was this. The house was that. The house is this. So simple statements. Do not make it over complicated. Okay, it's a simple question, and I can even get my year 7 students to get this question right. So there's not much to say for this question in all honesty. Moving on to question 2. Question 2 is the 8 marker and it's looking at language. So language analysis. You're analyzing how language is used by the writer for effect. So it's the same question every single year. And what I've done, I've made a list of language techniques that you will always find within the insert. And this is something I have taught my own students. And I can almost guarantee you will find this in your paper 1. So what do they include? They include the following. Number 1 is simile. Number 2, a metaphor. Number 3, sibilance. Number 4, personification. Number 5, zoomorphism. Number 6, pathetic fallacy. Number 7, alliteration. Number 8, a hyperbole. And number 9, a declarative. So these are some important techniques that you'll always find within the insert. There's actually one more I wanted to add. I've just realized I forgot to add. It's imagery. So I'm just going to add that very quickly. As you can see, I have added the final one, which is imagery. So there's 10 techniques and I can guarantee you will find at least some of these within the insert. So they will tell you to refer to specific lines. And on Monday, you'll realize the paragraph that they give you is packed with language features. So if I was you, what I would practice to do, or what I would encourage you to do, is to practice writing petal paragraphs based on these features and memorize the way you answer the question. And the only thing that you're going to change in the exam is the quotes. So what would I recommend for this question? I would recommend writing 2 to 3 petal paragraphs for this question. So approximately 2 to 3 petal paragraphs. And also remember, you need to focus on the effect. This is where you get most of your marks. Focus on how the language is used for effect. Can you mention the effect on the reader? Yes, absolutely. So make sure when you look at language analysis, you look at the effect. And not only that, when you pick out a quote, you need to zoom in and look at the key connotations and the key sort of analysis you can provide for that quote. And again, for the highest marks for level 4, so 7 to 8 marks, you need to make sure your analysis is detailed and perceptive. So try to make sure your analysis is detailed, you expand upon it, pick out a particular word and analyze that further, and make sure it's perceptive. So what we mean by that is when you look at the quote, don't just look at it don't just look at the explicit, so the obvious, but also look at the implicit. So look and read between the lines. And one other thing I wanted to mention is that when you look at the text or when you look at the insert on Monday, there's often common things or common features that you'll find. Yes, you'll find these language techniques, but one with zoomorphism. So if you see zoomorphism here, you'll often find, I'm just going to write here for number 2, you'll find a predator, sorry, I'll go back. So one thing that you'll often find here is a predator-prey relationship, okay? So this is something that's often found within the text. So you can already guess that you'll find that on Monday. So that is question 2. How long should you spend on this question? I would say 10 to 12 minutes. Okay. So you have been working on this question in year 10, year 9, etc. So there's nothing complicated about that. Moving on to question 3. Question 3 is all about structure, how the text is organized. So what you need to be doing here is you need to be looking at the focus shifts from the beginning to the middle to the end. So as you can see, what I've labeled for the beginning here, the writer will focus on one of the three. Either number 1 is setting, number 2 the character, or number 3 the writer will use in media res. So I can guarantee you the writer, so the insert on Monday will be using one of them. So you can already start formulating your paragraphs. You already know for question 3 on Monday, you already know your first paragraph will be focusing on 1, 2, or 3 written in pink. And also, because it's the whole text, you want to look at how the focus shifts to the middle, and then how does it shift to the end. And often what writers do is that they use a cyclical structure. So it's not always used, but it's something that is potentially going to be there on Monday. And in terms of timing, you should spend around 10 to 12 minutes for this question. So what are the structural techniques that you can mention for question 3? They include all the red techniques, which include a climax, foreboding, emotive, in media res, analepsis, prolepsis, chronology, dialogue, zooming in, zooming out, and foreshadowing. These are some of the structural techniques that you will find on Monday. Now, I have created a template for this question because many of my students have suggested for me to do this. So what I've done is created a template for you all just to make your life easier, because after all, we are easy education. Right, so we have a template here. So for paragraph 1, so it's essentially the same sort of system that you follow for paragraph 2 and 3. But number 1, the first thing you do is that you mention what the focus is on the beginning. So is that on the setting? Is it on the character? Is it through the use of in media res? It doesn't go straight into the action. Number 2, provide a relevant quote. What you mentioned in number 1, you need to back it up with the relevant quote. Number 3, explain and identify the structural technique. So you will be able to find within that quote a structural technique. So if you're not sure what a structural technique is, that's literally all the red written structural techniques here, as you can see. So these are some of the areas for you to explore. Number 4 is to further develop your explanation and focus on how it interests the reader. Very important. This is where you get a large chunk of your marks. Tell us how it interests the reader. So that would be your paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, you'd repeat as above. The only thing you change is number 1. You just have to change number 1 to the writer shifts the focus to ... Tell us what the writer focuses our attention to. How do they shift the focus? Is there a shift in the setting? Is there a shift in the idea? Is there a shift in time? So these are some things for you to consider for paragraph 2. And once again, following that order, you need to explain and identify the structural technique and tell us for number 4 how we interest the reader. And obviously the last one, paragraph 3, repeat as above, follow the same system, just change number 1 to the writer towards the end focuses on ... And you follow that system to score your 8 out of 8. Bam, that's it. That's all you have to do for question 3. This question is again something that a lot of students have confusions regarding. Remember, you don't provide language analysis, so you don't talk about the adjectives or emotive language personification. That's not required for question 3. So that sums up question 3. Again, it should be quick. Make sure you practice and look at different inserts, different past papers, and annotate it for structure. We do have model answers for questions 1, 2, and 3 on our YouTube channel. Do check out our playlist to stay up to date, and also play the videos and attempt the question in your own time and compare it to my answer. Moving on, question 4 is the final question for section A, which is worth a massive 20 marks. Now, if you do the maths, that is in fact 50% of your entire reading paper. Sorry, no, not your reading paper, but 50% of the section A. So this is a crucial question that you cannot mess up. In terms of timing, you should spend 20 to 25 minutes. Think of it like a mini essay. So this is what I always tell my own students. It's essentially a mini essay you're writing, and the more points you make, the more marks you get. It's as simple as that. What would I recommend in terms of your structure? You should aim for 4 petal paragraphs, 2 looking at language, 2 looking at structure. So for this question, I would strongly recommend. Now for the question 4, you need to ensure that you are writing 4 petal paragraphs, 2 on language, 2 on structure. The reason being, the question is looking at how the writer uses methods. So preferably here, you explore both language and structure in detail. So focus on detailed evaluative commentary. So what I would recommend is to agree with the statement, because the statement they provide is a statement that is plausible. So do not disagree with it, because you are making your life difficult. The second one, consider providing a counter argument, and you may have a part of the statement that you disagree with. And providing a counter is a great way to show in-depth evaluation and good evaluation. And also, importantly, provide a conclusion and give your overall verdict. Make this clear, and your response is to be convincing. So ultimately, when the examiner is reading your answer, they should be able to agree with what you are saying. And very important, something so simple is to write a lot. Write a lot for this question, because it's 20 marks. The more points you make, the more marks you are likely to score. Time management. Your time management is key. The question is extremely important. Now, I have stressed this many times to my own students. Question 4 is a huge question. You cannot mess up this question. So please practice, practice, and practice. Remember to link back to the statement and explain in detail why you agree. And finally, remember to refer to the specific lines. So you cannot refer to the entire text because it's specific lines. And this question is worth 50% of section A. So it's something that requires lots of practice. Do check out our language playlist on our channel, because we do have further videos on question 4 evaluation and how to score top marks. We are going to upload our model answer of how to score 20 out of 20. Before we move on, please subscribe, like and share to stay up to date with GCSE revision videos, and also for top tips for your upcoming exams. And finally, the last question of your language paper 1 is the creative writing, 40 marks. This question, I cannot stress this enough, is extremely important. It's pivotal, it's paramount, it's crucial. So you get 2 options. One is a narrative, so which is a story you're writing, and the second one is a description. Now you can choose which one you want to attempt, but I would recommend you learn how to master both of them. So if you do decide the narrative or the description, regardless, it is in fact 45 minutes. In terms of the time, how I would break it down, spend the first 5 minutes planning, the next 35 minutes writing, and the last 5 minutes checking. If you choose the narrative, ensure you plan. So I've drawn out the Freytag's pyramid. So to my own students, we have covered this before. So a Freytag's pyramid is literally a simple plan that you can use for your narrative, starting off with the exposition, where you introduce the characters, the setting. Then the inciting incident, as you can see with the X, is the trigger. So something happens and something will lead to a build-up of things. So obviously that's where you have the rising action, which is the build-up. Then you have the climax, which is the most intense and exciting part of the story. And then you have the falling action, which is the after effects of the climax. And then you have the resolution, so the ending towards the story. Now, if the exam board asks you to write the opening part of a story, you would probably start with the exposition and end your story at the climax, because you're purely just writing the opening. The ending here, you may want to add a plot twist or a cliffhanger to keep the reader guessing. Alternatively, if they ask you to write a story, so which means in general, what you may decide to do is actually not even have an exposition or have an inciting incident. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cross it out just to show you all. So what you can do, very simple, this was something I was mentioning to my own students, is you can skip all of this out and start, as you can see where the dot is, where we have in media res. So you can start your story where the climax is. This is something called in media res, and you will get marks for this, for structure. So you go straight into the action and you hook the reader in. So that is obviously another way you can begin your story or your narrative. Now, some top tips for this question: use language and structure in your narrative. So for language, obviously using figurative language, so simile, metaphor, personification, and all the other devices. And also remember, importantly, structure. A lot of my own students use amazing language in the narrative, but they completely disregard structure. Structure is equally important. So how can we use structure in our narrative? So number one, we can use a one sentence paragraph. Number two, we can use a cyclical structure where the narrative starts and ends in the same place or same location. And thirdly, we can use a flashback. So these are some examples of structure that you can use easily in your exam on Monday. And stick to a simple story plan. I see some of my students, they imagine as if they are the director for Marvel Studios. You don't have time for that. Keep it simple, keep the narrative simple. And finally, check over your work. Absolutely crucial. Your technical accuracy, AO6, you need to make sure that you are checking over your spelling, punctuation, and grammar. And to those of you choosing the description, you need to, first of all, when you're planning, obviously you're not using Freytag's pyramid, but you need to be jotting down your 5 senses. Look at the picture provided and jot down your 5 senses. And the best way to think of it is imagine yourself not in the example. Close your eyes, imagine yourself in the picture. What can you see? What can you smell? What can you taste? What can you touch? What can you hear? You shall not tell. Something so simple, something that you've learned from primary school. Use it. Apply it in your description. Ambitious vocabulary, absolutely crucial. This goes for all my students. You all have been provided with a vocab list at the back of your books. Use that and use it effectively. The vocab list is your companion. Use it for guidance. Use it to support your answer. Punctuation, use a variety of punctuation. The examiner wants to see how you use punctuation. So that's not just commas and full stops, but also using colons, semicolons, brackets, hyphens, and dashes. A variety of sentence starters. So don't just start every sentence with as I or the. Mix it up, show some variation. Start with a compound adjective. Start with a simile. Start with a prepositional phrase. Start with a one-word sentence. Mix it up and make it interesting. Similarly to the narrative, or similar to the narrative, use figurative language. It is key. Simile, metaphor, and personification. Go back to the basics. Refer to these in your description. And importantly, structure. Use structure in your description. For example, a one-sentence paragraph. Simple, but it gets you marks. And these are essentially everything that you need to know for question 5. Please make sure you practice this question every single day from now up until the exam. Now, I know the exams are fast approaching. You all need to work on time management. Time management is everything for this question. And also quality, quality, quality. Provide sophisticated descriptions. Provide sophisticated narrations. So one top tip I give to my own students is to bring in or incorporate Greek mythology into your answer, because it shows sophistication within your narrative. Now, I do really hope that you found this video beneficial, and I do believe, again, you all will smash these exams. Keep it simple and be confident. Have confidence going into the exam. And I was saying this earlier on today to my year 11s, especially for question 5, you want to write the best possible answer you have ever written, whether you choose the description or the narrative, the story. The reason being is, let's be honest, for most of you, this was probably the last time ever you are going to write a story. So why not make it the best ever story that you have written? And that takes us towards the end of the video. I hope this has made your understanding and revision easy. Just like easy education, we aim to provide easy information, and we try to make education easy. And that takes us towards the end of the video. Please subscribe, like and share for more. Thank you. Best of luck to all Year 11s. If you have any comments, any questions, please leave them below. Thank you.